Spider-Man is a very iconic character with a bunch of movies, games, TV shows, and even way more comics. And with Spider-Man Brand New Day almost out, depending on if this video ever even releases, I wanted to sort of recap or explain all the issues of The Amazing Spider-Man, which is the main Spider-Man run from like 1963 to now. I'll be briefly recapping and explaining what happened in each issue, starting with Amazing Fantasy 15 and all the way to Amazing Spider-Man 6. So leave this video on in the background while you're doing your homework or the dishes or like, I don't know, going out saving the city. Also, please like and subscribe. This video is probably gonna take like at least a month to get out, and yeah, it just took me a while to get this video done. So please subscribe, bro. Without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start with Amazing Fantasy 15, which is the origins and first appearance of Spider-Man. And Amazing Fantasy 15 introduces us to this nerdy, scrawny kid who's really into science, who lives with his aunt and uncle named Peter Parker. I'm going to hope that most of you know his origin by now, so this issue will be short of explaining. At a science exhibit after school, showing off a radiation machine, a spider happens to be lowering down and gets caught in between the machine. Then it bites Peter and he starts to gain powers, being able to climb walls and gaining the proportionate speed, strength, and agility of a spider. In a way to cash in on these powers, he signs up for a wrestling match. He dominates the other guy and comes up with a costume and a name he knits himself. Spider-Man was born and he's instantly like a famous sensation. He's known on TV, he's known around America, in high school he's known, and one day, after performing for the wrestling club, I guess, a robber runs past him, and Peter, being the dick that he is in the younger days, thinks the crook is beneath him and lets him go. Cut to Peter coming home and finding out his Uncle Ben was shot and killed at his house in a robbery. Peter, seeking vengeance, hunts down the crook, only to find out it was the guy he let go. Spidey webs him up, hands him to the police, and he doesn't kill him, and he finds out with great power comes great responsibility. From, you guessed it, a yellow box. And that's the end of Amazing Fantasy 15. Issue 1 of The Amazing Spider-Man picks off with Peter in his room feeling guilt for Uncle Ben. This guy comes looking for rent, which is crazy, dude. They just lost a family member. Like, bro, have some respect. So he goes back to the manager and tries to cash a check he previously earned the other night. But he gets denied because the dude's all like, anyone can wear a costume and be Spider-Man. So that's the no-go. Also, there's this dude named J. Jonah Jameson. You might want to remember him later. He's cooking up some evil newspaper about Spidey. Overnight, Spider-Man becomes a menace because of Jonah and is kicked out of the wrestling ring, even though they were glazing him a few nights ago. Anyways, Jonah's son, John Jameson, is about to crash into the earth from his spaceship, and Spidey has to save him. So with the help of a pilot nearby, he catches a ride on the ship and helps John land it safely. After that, Peter wants to join a real superhero team, and then he goes and knocks on the Fantastic Four's doorstep and tries to join him. He breaks in and is super cocky and runs his mouth and ends up having to fight the Fantastic Four, thinking it's some kind of test. He cooks them in the 1v4 and he swings away, saying the Fantastic Four look like pikers. Basically stingy and petty people back then, I guess. The first real villain Spidey meets is the Chameleon. The Chameleon cooks up a plan to impersonate Spidey and start robbing stuff, using gadgets like sticky feet and even a fake web shooter. He steals missile defense plans and steals a helicopter to run away. Spidey locks in and catches up to him using a slingshot and web parachute to land on the copter and take Chameleon out. Spidey apprehends the Chameleon, and while Spidey's dumbass is distracted, he throws some smoke grenade and turns into one of the cops. When the lights shut out, but Spidey senses him, but because of plot, his web shooters are empty and the Chameleon gets away. Or so we thought, as Spidey leaps onto one of the cops, but it turns out it was a real cop. But because of the scuffle, the real Chameleon is shown because of the Spidey suit under the torn uniform. Spidey thought he sold the entire thing and runs away sobbing because he can't do anything right, not knowing the Chameleon was really caught. In this issue, Spidey fights the Vulture, which is really just an old man with wings. We first see Vulture stealing some bonds from a guy in the street. The Vulture is known and feared already, and the Daily Bugle, headquarters of J. Jonah Jameson from last issue, wants photos of the Vulture, and Peter needs more cash. The Vulture wants more money and plans to steal gems, so what does he do? he literally throws a note right into the police headquarters, saying he'll steal the gems from right underneath their noses. Spidey Sense comes in clutch and warns Spidey of the Vulture, and he starts to set up his camera for news pics. But apparently because Spidey loosens a brick or something, the Vulture hears him, and he begins to swoop behind Spidey while he's still setting up his camera. Vulture hits him from behind, and while Spidey's stunned, Vulture drops him into a water tower hoping he'll drown. But because of the cold water, or plot, Spidey wakes back up and escapes. Back at home, Peter makes a belt to hold his web fluid, camera, and a new device to help him stop the Vulture. He also sells the pics of the Vulture to Jameson, gaining more money. Next day, the Vulture goes through with his plan and steals the gems from literally right underneath their noses from the sewer grate. The Vulture starts to fly away in the sewers, but Spider-Man catches up to him, but loses him when he goes outside again. But because of his Spidey sense, he's saved and activates the device he's made. It stops the Vulture's flying mechanism, which is revealed to be an anti-magnet device, because Vulture uses magnetic energy or something to fly. Vulture is given to the police, and that's the end of the Vulture's first story. In this issue, Spidey also fights the Tinkerer, less known Spidey villain. At school, Peter is tasked with buying a radio at a shop for a professor, and Peter happily accepts. He makes his way to the store and is met with this really creepy old dude. Peter's spider sense goes off, and it's revealed the dude is a green freaky alien in his basement helping with tech. Peter gets his radio and leaves, but can't stop thinking about it during his lab assignment. He comes back and sneaks into the basement of Spider-Man and is met with multiple green freaky aliens, which beat him up and throw him into a glass dome. And Spidey notices a hole and shoots his web through it, and hits the mechanism to release him. He breaks the control panel and the aliens flee, and the Tinkerer tries to run too, but Spidey catches him. But because of plot, a fire starts and Spidey has to get out of there. In the end, it's revealed that the Tinkerer was wearing a mask. Was he an alien? Was he the chameleon? I guess we'll never know. ASM 3 opens up with Spidey catching some run-of-the-mill thieves, using his brand new spider signal he must have invented between issues. We then cut to an atomic research center where we meet our main villain of the issue, Dr. Octopus. He got that name because he uses these giant metal arms to operate equipment and do experiments. Then an accident happens, which blows up the building with nuclear radiation. Doc Ock was stuck in the building and hit with the blast. To very much surprise, he is alive and wakes up in the hospital a few days later, but with the arms infused with the skin, and also he can control them telepathically now. But because of the radiation, his brain has also been altered, causing him to be evil. Meanwhile, in the Daily Bugle, Peter has been tasked with finding some photos of Doc Ock, and Peter happily obliges. He makes his way to the hospital Ock is at, and puts on his Spidey suit and runs into Doc Ock, threatening the employees. Spidey jumps in through the window and begins to fight with Doc Ock. Unfortunately, Spidey gets his ass whooped and humiliated. Spidey feels horrible and starts thinking he's not built for this life and runs away. Meanwhile, Doc Ock breaks out and takes over an atomic plant, putting it under lockdown. Peter goes to school the next day, and who happens to be there? The Human Torch, for some reason, is there to give a presentation about something. And he says the number one lesson as a hero is to never give up, ever. Peter gets reignited with hope and rushes out to go defeat Doc Ock. He breaks into the plant and begins to search for Doc Ock, dodging electric beams and Ock's metal arms. Spider-Man gets surrounded and grasped by Doc Ock's arms, and on the verge of defeat, he quickly punches Doc Ock and knocks him out cold, saving the day. Spidey webs up his arms and even leaves a little note to show that Spidey was here. He swings around and finds the Human Torch in a physical, and thanks him for his help as a hero, and swings off into the sunset. Spidey's beginning to get hated on and seen as a menace by everyone because of the Daily Bugle. Spidey sees 3 people causing trouble on the sidewalk, and he stops them, but with no evidence that they were doing anything illegal, he has to let them go. While going to the Daily Bugle to give him a piece of his mind, he spots a man climbing up a ladder in a hurry. Peter recognizes him as a wanted man everywhere and goes to investigate. He shines the Spidey signal and catches the attention of the guy. Spidey grabs him, when the guy turns into sand and leaves his hands. Spidey tries hitting him, but it feels like iron, and Sandman hits back, causing Spidey's mask to get broken and Peter running away to hide his identity. Peter stays at home, sewing his mask back together, when the news warns them of a man named Flint Marko on the loose who had gained powers to become sand. He escaped from prison and stumbled into an atomic devices testing center and got hit in an explosion on the beach, causing the molecules in his body and sand to mix. The next day at school, Sandman is running away from the police and runs into Peter's high school. He runs into a room with Peter there and other students and tries to make the teacher give him a diploma? Peter disappears and Spider-Man comes to save the day. The two go head-to-head in the battle, breaking doors, slamming each other against walls, and causing all types of damage to the school. Finally, Sandman surrounds Spidey in sand and turns him into a ball. He rolls himself down the stairs into a basement. It seems like Spidey's gonna lose, but wait. He turns on a vacuum and sucks Sandman, into the vacuum, saving the day. He then grabs some sand and throws it into the air, pretending to fight the Sandman for some pictures. But not everything goes well, as Peter is rejected on a date with Liz Allen, and Spidey is still somehow framed the bad guy at the school. The issue ends with Peter sitting in his room, confused and bitter, considering whether he should give up being Spider-Man. Issue 5 begins with Spider-Man still being hated on by everyone. Then we cut to Dr. Doom and how he escaped the Fantastic Four, and how Jameson is offering a $1,000 reward for the capture of Spider-Man. Dr. Doom takes his interest in Spidey and decides to try to persuade him into joining his side against the Fantastic Four. So he uses a spider to telepathically call Peter, and surprisingly it actually works. So Peter and Dr. Doom meet up at Doom's lair. Dr. Doom proposes his plan and Peter actually thinks about it for a minute, but declines and webs up Dr. Doom. But it turns out he was talking to a fake one the entire time and the real Doom was hiding in the closet. Spidey dodges a trapdoor and then gets flung out by Doom into the water. Doom decides to let him go this time and get him another time. Meanwhile, Flash Thompson, Peter's bully, decides to play a prank on him by dressing up as Spider-Man to shock him, I guess. Doom decides to go out looking for Spidey using a machine that tracks the spider's impulses, using the same way he telepathically talked to Spider-Man. And Peter makes his way to school. While on his way to prank Peter, Flash gets captured by Doom and gets knocked out by using some gas, thinking he was the real Spider-Man. While Peter is at home relaxing, the news turns on showing Dr. Doom. Doom says he's caught Spider-Man and is going to kill him unless the Fantastic Four arrive to negotiate. Peter obviously tries to go out and save him, but his Aunt May won't let him. So he goes to the basement and removes the master fuse, leaving the poor old lady alone in the dark, and says he'll go out and get a new one. Spidey ends up finding Doom's lair and fights him. He dodges Doom's lasers by creating a web wall and shutting down Doom's gauntlets by webbing it up. Spidey has to dodge these metal balls that chase him and dodge firewalls. Finally, Spidey gets caught in an electrical trap, but not before webbing Doom, so he's in the trap as well. Spider-Man is losing the fight as Doom gets a second robot that looks exactly like him to fight him at the same time. But he ends up getting saved as the Fantastic Four show up, which causes Doom to run away. Flash Thompson is caught by the Fantastic Four and escorted home. This issue ends with the class celebrating Flash being safe and Spider-Man getting no credit again. I think I'm starting to see a pattern with these issues. This issue opens up in Florida. We see a giant lizard dinosaur monster creature in a lab coat and purple pants terrorizing the people, tearing off trees and chucking them at dudes. We then cut to Peter Parker at a museum, where his spider sense alerts him of some thieves about to steal something when he swoops in and saves the day. Later he goes and visits Jameson as Spider-Man, and tells him to send his best photographer to Florida, as he's about to fight the lizard. Jameson sends Parker to Florida, and Peter goes to find the lizard. It didn't take him long to find a green monster wearing purple pants. There's only like what, 2 of those around here? Or rather, it found him. The lizard sneakily attacks Peter and tries to drown him, but Peter gets out and the lizard runs away. Peter goes to see a reptile expert named Dr. Curtis Connors to see if he could find any new info about the lizard. He finds his wife there, and she explains that Dr. Connors is the lizard. She explains as he was experimenting trying to regrow his arm back to play with his kid again, when suddenly he turned green and got scales around his skin. He ran away and returned the next morning to try and create a cure, but his brain had become too dulled. Instead, he left a note explaining his wife everything and left again. Okay, flashback's over. Suddenly, Spidey hears a scream and it's none other than Connor's kid, Billy, getting approached by the lizard. Spidey swings in and saves Billy. The lizard retreats and Spidey gets to cooking up an antidote to cure Dr. Connors. After a little while, he succeeds in making an antidote and goes to hunt down the lizard. Spidey even creates a pair of shoes for his feet so that way he can travel down the river. Like, bro, this is so goofy. Peter eventually finds the lizard, and the lizard is talking to other reptilians in the swamp when Spidey's dumbass falls off the structure he's on and alerts the lizard. The lizard commands the crocodiles to hunt Spider-Man, but Spidey literally just climbs the wall and he's immediately safe, so they were pretty useless. They take the fight inside the building, where Spidey dodges and tries not to hit the lizard as he knows it's Dr. Connors inside. Eventually, Spidey gets the lizard to drink the antidote, and it doesn't work. The lizard gets the best of Spidey and he's about to lose until the antidote works miraculously, and the lizard turns back to Dr. Connors again. Dr. Connors is reunited with his son and wife, Peter gets to sell his photos to Jameson, and it's all a happy ending. Okay, so this is going to be the end of the video as I can't really edit more without my phone lagging, and I really hate to do this, but I will be explaining this in all parts. I plan to do all the way up to Gwen Stacy's death and maybe a few select stories after that, but I don't know, we'll see. Please comment down in the comments if there's anything I can improve or change upon, as this is my first YouTube video I'll be making. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and bye bye.